Hey, we're going to be doing oil change or first service on this 2023 Vespa GTS. We will also be changing the gear oil in the rear end. Before we get started, I want to give a shout out to Robot. He's from Scooter West over there in California. He does all kinds of great videos on to show different things that you can do with these. So if you want to check him out, I'm going to put his channel link below because he deserves a shout out and he's been doing this for a long time. So it's one of my go-to places whenever I need Vespa parts or I need some Vespa knowledge. Here are some of the things you're gonna need to complete this job. First of all, you're gonna need a 24 box wrench or open end wrench, or possibly like a breaker bar like I have set up here because it's the only thing I have to take the drain plug out. The drain plug for the rear end is this metric 6 Allen key. If you have a long one, that's better. It'll be easier to reach in there. And then I have a new fresh oil filter. I have a new O-ring for my oil drain plug and a new crush ring for my rear end drain plug. I like this Motul. You go with the 8090 on these bad boys in reference from Scooter. I like this one because it has a little spout that comes out, which is going to make it a lot easier to pour it in the rear end. And then these Vespas always want to go with the Castrol. This is a real nice one right here, the 5W44T. I got this one off Amazon. I'll link it below because it was just cheaper if I got it in a 6-pack. So I'll be going through it in the future anyway. And then I picked this up from like an auto parts store. This screws onto the top of here and it allows you to turn on and off the flow because your oil fill drain's right here. So it's really hard to pour in there. So what you're going to want to do is come from the top. And in this case, if you have this guy right here, it's going to allow you to run it down to the fill spout. And then you'll be able to turn this on and off by twisting this to release the oil into the system. Now, another thing before we get started, it's preferable not to have this kickstand down because when the oil drains down, it's going to want to drip on there. We're on the other side of the bike right now. If you have a bike stand where you can clamp the front wheel and take it off the kickstand, that's the best way to do it. I also forgot you're going to need a drain pan to catch the oil. I also cut this bottle of oil up. So in that way, so when I take the drain plug out for the rear end, we'll be able to catch the oil so it doesn't go all over the wheel. It's up underneath here. So we'll get to that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop my bike down and I'm going to put it on its kickstand, but I'm going to stick it on top of this piece of wood so it's pretty much level. But always be careful when you're doing this because you don't want the bike to fall over on you. It'll still have a slight lean the opposite way, but as I drain the oil out too, I'll just hold it and kind of let it come out for myself. But anyway, let's get into this. So what we did here is we got it off the center stand and I put the kickstand down and I put it on a piece of 2x4. So the bike's pretty much level, but just in case, I put my floor jack on this side just so it wouldn't tip towards me. Now what we're gonna do is I have the drain pan down here and right here, oil drain plug, and then your filter is right here. So now with the kickstand down, I can get this pan underneath here and catch all the oil. So I'm gonna move this pan out of the way so I can get my wrench. It's a 24 mil, so I can crack it free. If you need to, you can crack it free while it's on the stand so you have a little bit more room because this is pretty tight and I don't have a ratchet. This should not be super tight. I'm gonna pull on right now, boom, see? That's simple. The oil filter was a little tighter, so I grabbed a pair of these and I just clamped on it and I just broke it free so I can do the rest by hand. I'm gonna loosen this plug up. This is a 625 mile initial change and in all honesty, I went way over. So we'll see what kind of oil we're dealing with here. It's probably gonna be a little extra black as you can see, right? And inside there, you can see that black ring. Okay, that's your your rubber gasket. So I bought a new one of those because he recommends it. So we're going to swap that one out as well. You can see that white thing in there. There's a screen in there. So I grabbed some needle nose to make it a little easier to get to. But what you want to do is just kind of pull this guy out. And then we want to look for any debris that might be on here, any kind of metal chunks. It looks like there's like just a little one right here, so I'm gonna pick that out with my fingers. But otherwise, I mean, that looks really, really good. Make sure there's no chunks left on there. And then we're gonna reinsert that back in. Just be gentle. There you go, it pops right in. All right, and then now we're gonna loosen this oil filter. Like I said, I already cracked it with my pair of pliers. Sometimes there's different styles out there, but this is the factory one. Yes, it's still tight. It's pretty tight. So I'm gonna give it another turn. Okay, there we go. There we go. And it's on there, good. Make sure you dispose of the stuff at your local auto parts store. All right. Now you can let every last drip and drop come out of this thing, but I'm fairly substantial. I'm gonna let it go a little bit longer, and as I wait, I'm gonna get up underneath here and we're gonna clean up this whole area here. You always wanna make sure that the oil filter doesn't leave its seal back there because you don't wanna double seal it, so you always check that. And then before you put your drain plug back on, make sure you wipe that down nice and clean, okay? So I'm gonna get a little grease and we're gonna replace our drain plug gasket. That's this guy right here. We're gonna replace our, pull this one out and then replace our drain plug gasket, because these get flattened out a little bit and it's always nice to have a fresh one out. They're super cheap. I'll link a Scooter West video in this video, so if you want to get the parts, you can check that out. Okay, so now we got our drain plug here. I'm gonna get this little gasket out of there, but the way I'm gonna do, I'm just take this knife here and I'm just gonna kind of slip it out because I can't get it with my fingers. And there we go. And if you might not be able to see this on camera, but if you look closely, you can kind of see that it's been flattened out. So that's why getting a new drain plug gasket is a great idea. We're just gonna wipe this down one more time. Just make sure it's nice and clean. There is a little grease on here because what they do is these just kind of sit in here. So when they're just sitting in there, they can fall out and slide down sometimes. So just to be precautious, we're gonna just get this in there nice and even. And I'm just gonna take a titch of grease, nothing crazy, and just put on our finger, just a tiny bit, Doesn't have to be anything crazy. This isn't going inside the engine or anything, so don't worry about that. And we're just gonna rub it around the edge here just to hold this in place. So in that way we won't have a problem with it falling out or going where it shouldn't be. Make sure it's nice and even. Nice little skim coat's gonna hold it in. And that way you don't have problems with it falling out, okay? So now that's ready to go. Now what we need to do is we're gonna prep our new oil filter too. So with the oil filter, so obviously this would be a lot nicer if I didn't have to work off the ground and I had a nice stand to put it on, but this will do. It's not like I'm doing 10 of these a day. So I ordered my oil filter from scooterwest.com. So the oil filter I got from Scooter West is 82635-PA, and the gasket for the oil drain plug gasket is 285536. And there will also be a crush washer that I got for my drain plug on the rear end, not the differential, but the rear end lube. That's 000397. So when you get these filters, okay, this looks a little bit dry. So what I'm gonna do, and what you wanna do, is crack open your fresh oil, dip your finger in here. A lot of times it's better if you have a glove on, and then you're just gonna rub it around the top here, okay? And just lube that up so it's got a nice little dampness to it. Now, a lot of times people say fill these filters up with oil, and I do a lot of times like on vehicles and stuff, but in this situation, it's going on sideways. So I've had the tendency of it just wanting to pour out. So I'm gonna leave it dry and it'll pump it through there once I start the engine up the first time. Back under the bike, you can see that there's some oil in here. I wanna make sure that's dried up. I'm gonna wipe that down real nice and also get that drain plug surface wiped off, and then let's get that drain plug back in there. Just make this nice and clean, and then wipe this off here. We're pretty much at like a drip right now, so I'm really happy with that. That's not bad at all. We're at a drip over there on the drain plug. Get this drain plug put back on here. We're gonna finger tighten it, and then we'll get this oil filter started up on here. And now, since I'm here, once I get these in place, I'm gonna get it back on the stand so I can have a little bit more space under here to kind of crank these down. Okay, now we wanna get a wrench on here, okay? I don't have a lot of room, so this is a little makeshift, but it'll do the job. And once it gets seated, you don't need to really crank on it hard, as they say. You just want to get it seated down, because when we took it off, it wasn't that hard. So once we have this on here, we're just gonna give this a little bit of pressure. Okay, maybe just a titch more. Just a titch more. We're just gonna, and that's good. Okay, you don't need more than that. And obviously, after you run it for a little while, you're going to check it again. And then this oil filter, I'm going to get this seated down. Okay. I mean, it was pretty tough getting off. I had to use pliers. I'm just going to get it, once it seats down, I'm going to turn it about another half turn after that. Get my glove back on so I can get a little traction on this thing. There's always tools that you can use for this too. Like I said, you're always going to check this too when you're after like 100 miles or something. So that feels pretty good. And now we're going to go and move towards filling it back up with oil. So also, if you need a little help getting this tight and you don't have a tool, I always keep an old V-belt around for loosening and unloosening. And I just got this around this oil filter, right? And I'm going to clamp down on it. Got it around it, and then I'm just going to kind of squeeze it. It's going to let me tighten it down. That feels a lot better now. So you want to be careful with these dipsticks because they're kind of like brittle in a sense, all right? And when you're sticking them in, there's like a little, not secret, but let me show you real quick. If you try to stick this dipstick in, right, and you stick it straight down, it doesn't want to go because there's a little lip there. So you want to kind of tilt it towards the back, like to the back of the hole, and then slide it in. If you feel any resistance, don't force it. Just nice and easy. Find that spot, okay? So kind of to the back and to the, that would be your left side of the hole. it'll slide right in. So we know we're gonna need about 1.3 liters of oil in this. So the best thing to do is get this bike back up on its center stand, so that way the front tire is down and you're gonna get the best oil fill reading this way. So now since we have that all set up, I have this little contraption here, and what it does is it screws onto your oil can, right? And then you can fill it up. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna pop this guy off, right? And I'm gonna take my funnel and I'm gonna stick it in the top of this hole. And now I have the ability to control the amount of fluid that I'm pouring in. If this was a different situation where I knew I had to pour the whole thing in, it would be different. But in this case, I wanna do it this way so I have more control over the volume. So we're just gonna take this tip off here. We're gonna come down here, get the dipstick out, but be careful. Like I said, these are very fragile. They break off easy. It's not the end of the world if it does go in there, but you just don't wanna break these. So I'm gonna put that to the side right now. All right, and we're gonna feed this through down here. Okay. So now we have our funnel that we can fill, and our tube is going down to the bottom. So we know we can pour this whole one in there because it's gonna take 1.3. So don't just force it and shove it in there. We're just gonna, nice and easy, slow and steady wins the race. So now we know that's one full bottle. It's great to keep these bottles because you can take your old oil and fill it back up in there. What I like to do is I have a clean funnel and a dirty funnel. I use the dirty funnel to obviously take the dirty oil and put it back into the bottles I used. And then I can take it to any auto parts store, so I dispose of it properly. So then we're gonna crack open this second bottle of the Castrol Power. This is the recommended motor oil is Castrol for the Vespas. And there's always that foil on there. Make sure you don't drop it in. Just take a knife and cut that bad boy up and out of there. So this takes 1.3. So we're going to drop this down just to about 750. Well, we'll check it and then we'll start it and check it again. Like I said, it's better to take your time because you don't want to overfill it, because then that's just a hassle. And we're right about 750 now, a titch more. There we go. We'll let that drain for a second. I always like to throw my caps in my dirty oil. I always like to cap off my oil, so if I knock them over by accident. I have this coming in here. So what I'll do is I like to take a little, paper towel or shop rag and just kind of start to pull this out of here and do my best to catch any oil that comes out. So now I have it covered, and then I can send it up and through. And once I get to a certain point, I crease it, right? And I bend it over like this, and then that way I'm not worried about stuff draining. And then you can always stick it into a box if you want. That way it doesn't leak on your floor. We're gonna put our dipstick in here. Now remember, going in is the part that you really need to be careful because it'll only go in one spot. And then we'll screw this down until we touch the gasket. You'll feel it start to seat. Get ourselves a nice little clean shop rag or whatever you're using. The biggest thing I like to use is anything that doesn't leave particles behind. And these paper towels are a little bit higher quality and they don't do that. Shop rags work really well, but they don't do that. It just depends on, what you're doing. Sometimes I'll keep those around. So we're gonna pull this out here. It's a little tedious, but just take your time. And we're really close. So what we'll do now is we're gonna start it up so that way all the oil can go into the filter and that'll make the level drop again. And then we'll top it off. So I'm just gonna screw this down and make sure it's tight because sometimes newbies might not tighten it down enough. Don't crank it down, just snug, and it could vibrate out. And you don't want that to happen. And if you get any oil in here, just wipe it off. If you get any in the muffler, you'll smell it burn off a little bit on the test drive, but not a huge big deal. So I gotta use this because I lost my key fob for this keyless entry. I called today and the keys are anywhere from 160 to 170 bucks, and then plus they gotta program it. I was going down the highway. I was doing, it was a 55 road, but I had it in my pocket and didn't zip it up and fell out. So, and then I got to my destination, stopped my bike, and went to come back out to go, leave. And my bike's like, key fob's not in range. Key fob's not in range. It's a long day. Anyway, okay, we'll start this up real quick. Make sure we get pressure on the oil light disappears. All right, my oil light went off, so that's a good sign. Okay, we'll stop it. We'll let it sit for a minute so that oil kind of runs and drains back down. If we need to add any, we'll top it off. So as I wait for that oil to drain down to the bottom, I'm just gonna start unscrewing this. That way I can get it out and get it cleaned up, ready for the check. Now the big thing is you wanna be, there's a low mark and a high mark on this dipstick. I like to be at the high mark. Usually as long as you're in the hashtags, you're good. But I like to be in the high mark. So I don't know if you can see that there. But see, there's the low mark is that tab, and then the high mark, and then there's hashtags in there, or hash marks. So you want to be in there, but I like to be to the higher side. See, like right there, it doesn't want to go in, so I have to just kind of bring it to the side a little bit and find that sweet spot. Go in and come back out. It seems like it's right there. Yeah, we're right in the hash mark right about here in the middle. So I'm gonna just add a little bit to it. I'm gonna check it one more time because sometimes when you're pulling it out, it'll hit the edges and you can kind of get like a false reading. So I just always like to, you know, I like to know exactly how much oil any vehicle I'm ever working on takes. So I know that if I'm not really getting a solid reading off the dipstick, or I'm questioning it, I know that I put the right amount in. So these Vespas take about 1.3 liters of oil. I'm sure that you could look that up in metrics. I'm not exactly sure that number, but I think that's around 1,000 or something like that, but I would double check. So we need to add a little bit to this. Yeah, I got a good reading that time. It's definitely where I was. Last time when I was reading it, one side looked like it was higher than the other side. That's why you always check both sides. So we're just gonna add about maybe 100 mils and then see where that puts us. All right, so we're gonna add 100 mils and that should do us just fine. So we got 750 to, 750, 500. So we're just gonna go about a third of the way down. I like that right there. Let's see what that did to us. Just make sure, you're not in a rush to do this or you're on a time strain. Just take your time, because especially the first time it takes a little bit longer because, you're kind of figuring stuff out. You're seeing how things go, but every time you do it, it gets easier and easier. This should be our final check, and then we'll move on to the gear oil. That's it, baby. We're right to the top mark. I don't know if you can see that. We're at the high level. So we're gonna put this back in here. Now, once again, make sure that you, just snug it down. Don't over tighten it, but just get it to seat and then just get a little titch. So it's there. Yep, it just stops. There's no more. This is where you check your gear oil, and we're gonna be draining the oil out of here. But in order to do that, you gotta come around this side. If you see that alien, that's your drain plug. Problem is, you don't want that getting on your wheel or your tires because that can make a problem. So we're gonna cut the bottle of an old oil bottle, and simultaneously, we're gonna come around here. We're gonna crack that bolt free, and we're gonna hold this underneath here to catch all the oil. All right, so it's a little tricky, but like I said, you don't want that getting on your tire because that's some slick stuff. So here we go. I'm gonna crack this free. Okay. Now I'm gonna get my hand off, my ratchet off here. Get the makeshift drain pan over here ready to catch everything. I'm just gonna slowly turn this out, not in a hurry. Just take our time. A little tough angle here, I understand, but gotta catch this because we don't want this going on the wheel. Here we go. I saw the drain plug drop. So I'm just gonna pay attention to this oil right now. And I'm just gonna sit here quietly and peacefully wait till this gets to a drip. Really doesn't look that bad. It still looks pretty clean, but this is the the first service on this thing. It looks good though, so that's a good sign. But we'll be adding in our gear oil after this gets down to a drip. I'm going to try and multitask here. Get this guy loaded up, the new washer that I have next to me. So I saw the washer drop into the bucket. This is quite makeshift here. It didn't have a long Allen, and it was on there quite snug. So I had to crack it with this ratchet. So I'm gonna load this up here. And since I know this is gonna fall out, what I do is I take one of my little magnets just to give me enough to hold it in place. So once that gets down to a drip over there, I'll rethread the drain bolt with the new crush washer on it. All right, we are down to a drip now. So let me move you guys out of the way. You just want to make sure you don't cross thread this in, okay? So just take your time and be careful. I'm doing this with my opposite hand that I normally do it with. Get it straight in line. Make sure I don't leave my magnet there on the rotor. So Robot says you got to put about 15 pounds of pressure on this, which isn't too crazy. And always make sure, after you go for a ride, just check it, just make sure it's not dripping or leaking. And then come back around the other side here. Get the wipey. All right. Well, this thing worked out just fine. Very satisfied. Get over here, give this a wipe down. And we were successful not to get any on the wheel, brake, tire. Okay, now we're gonna pull out the dipstick for the gear oil. We're gonna take a clean rag and just kind of wipe around here to get anything off. If you can't get this out, there's a little squared box on the top that you can get a pair of box end wrench on, but it shouldn't be too tight. Got a little bit resistance, but it's going. So we're gonna slide this out. As they were stating to me before, people get a little confused on the reading. There's all these graduations, but this little dot is where you need to bring it to. That's it. And once you're there, you're good. Now, there's a little bit of dirt and debris on there, so I'm gonna take my clean rag and I'm gonna go to the center and wipe out all the way around it. There's many gear oils that you can go with. I like this Motul because the Motul actually comes with a little spout on top. This is Motul 8090. You crack this little top off here, right? And then you should be able just to pull this up. Okay, pull it up like that, and then boom. Now we have this spout that we can use to pour it in. We're going to be adding 150 cc, so we're going to bring this down to 850. This is a true 1 liter bottle. So this is extremely hard to read. Well, let's see if we got any in there. Okay, it's not even touching. Yeah, so this bottle is really hard to read here, so we're just going to squirt a little bit in, give a reading. We'll just go nice and slow. I mean, I guess if you had a syringe, you could just fill it straight to 150 and then squirt it in there, so that would be nice. Still nothing. But you don't want to overfill this because that's when you start blowing seals out. And there's just a couple little gears in there, so it doesn't need a lot. Like I said, just take your time. But the good thing is that you're going to have plenty of this gear oil left. It's a little tedious, but like I said, I'd rather go slow and not overfill it. All right, we finally got some on there, so we're just gonna put a little titch more. Shouldn't be a lot. This should be it. I think that should be good. We're on the dot. We'll tighten this in, snug, and we're good. You can go and check your coolant. There's other things that you should do for your first service, but the main thing is to get that oil and the gear oil changed out. But now we got this wrench. We want to get rid of this wrench. So what you're going to want to do is click your menu button here. You're going to click it to the left until we get to volts up here. And then you're supposed to push and hold it for 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So it says coupon resetting, coupon resetted, and then I'm gonna let it's gone, and now it's gone. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to 6,000, and that's why I'll do my next service every 3,000 or so. You can check the manual for proper services. Obviously, you wanna be checking your coolant, your air filter, your engine oil, all your levels, your gear oil on a regular basis, your battery voltage. This video is just really to show how to get to your engine oil and changing that all out with your gear oil. We reset the system, and don't forget to do this at regular intervals. Check your systems, regularly, and make sure you go for a test ride. Double check to see if there's any leakages, and then after 100 miles, check that too. So I'll thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time on Brandon's DIYs.